In episode 7, you learn that Sophia, the whistleblower, is in Belarus, so getting to her is going to be really tough for Bradley. Meanwhile, Chip is taking it upon himself to go interview a bunch of the Wolf River survivors, and it's not good. And while obviously the survivors of Wolf River have gotten the worst of it, the activists, including Claire, are now on the run by the FBI. Claire, in the middle of the night, has nowhere to go. She knows that she's being hunted, so she turns to the one person she knows will let her in the door, and that's Yanko. And Yanko is shocked to see Claire. I mean, it's like he saw a ghost, but she was right. He welcomes her in, and he says, "Whatever you need, I got you." And Yanko wasn't the only one to get an unexpected visitor that night, because Bradley got a visit from the FBI. Again, because they know that she's talked to Claire. And the reason why they know that is because when she forwarded the activist information to Eagle News, they forwarded it to the FBI. So they know that Bradley's in contact with Claire, and they're wondering where exactly she is, but Bradley tells them, "I have no idea. She left. I don't know. I never actually met with her." And the fact is, the FBI, the guy who fought for her, the guy who went to his bosses and said, "Bradley's our girl. She can go to New York. She can be an asset," his patience is running thin. He's getting really pissed off because he just doesn't believe Bradley. But Bradley doesn't know what to tell him because, in all honesty, she doesn't know where Claire is. For Bradley, she's just trying to focus on finishing the Wolf River story and doing her job. And the next day, when she goes to the morning show, she's co-hosting with Yanko, and they get word that the leader of that radical environmentalist group was caught and arrested. So right away, Bradley, during a break, reaches out to Claire to try to get some answers if she's okay, but then she realizes, I'm sitting right next to Yanko. Maybe Claire went to him. And she asks Yanko, have you heard from Claire? But Yanko lies and says, no, I haven't. Why? She explains to Yanko that she's got a source who says that the FBI has a file on that extremist group and that Claire could be involved, and it's pretty serious. And hearing that, Yanko gets really concerned. Because Claire didn't go into exactly vivid detail on why she was showing up at his door in the middle of the night. She just said, "I need some place to crash." So as soon as the show's over, he rushes back to his apartment where Claire is just waking up. He makes her breakfast and they talk. Initially, though, they talk about just their relationship and how secretive it was. But then he gets into what Bradley told him about the file and all of that and how he's concerned. And she wants to see the file. She wants to know exactly what the FBI has on her group. So Yanko's agreed to reach out to Bradley and see if he can facilitate a meeting between Bradley and Claire in his apartment later that day, so hopefully Bradley can show Claire the file. But back at the UBN office, the Stella situation has not gone away. Kabir, the New York Times interviewer, who is also a source for Chip, he's decided to do a story on UBN. It just seems like it's a toxic work environment, and he interviews both Alex and Bro Hartman. And it seems like this timepiece is going to be really bad. But when they get out of the initial meeting with Kabir, while Alex is stressed out, Bro couldn't care less, and he can't figure out why Alex cares. Until finally she turns to him and says, "I spent 20 years of my life here. That's why I care. Because I don't want to think that it's been 20 years of nothing." And the way the Bro looks at it, I don't really care about this place. I can take my podcast and my show anywhere, and Alex, you can do the same thing. But they just have a big-time difference of opinion on this. And it's pretty clear that Alex is beyond stressed to find out what that New York Times article is going to say on UBN. And of course, the whole Stella situation started because they didn't have anybody else for the Olympics, which gives Christine more leverage. So right down the hall, you've got a meeting going on between Mia and Ben. And while they're friendly, there's also contention there, because Mia still believes that she should have gotten the job. And then you've got Ben trying to play hardball, saying, look, there's no more money. I mean, we'll give her a modest boost, but that's about it. And that's when Mia drops a bombshell on Ben. Because that flash drive that Stella sent Mia had some incriminating evidence regarding Fred Micklin paying off an independent investigator with the Mitch Kessler situation. And that was something that Ben had no idea about. This immediately puts all of the onus on Ben, along with Celine, to get a deal done and keep this story out of the press. But Mia reminds him, it's not just Chris's deal, it's my deal as well. And after talking with Celine, it appears that Ben has gotten the okay to just give her what she wants. Ben ends up meeting up with Chris at his staff party. It's the typical pizza party where a corporation decides we're not giving anybody raises and we probably just laid a bunch of people off, but hey, here's some pizza. Anyone want pepperoni? It's one of those. And by the way, Ray is there, so she didn't get let go. But all the staff knows what this is. Ben, though, walks up to Chris. He tells her, hey, great news. We got your deal done. But the Olympics, though, that's on the shelf. He tries to massage it in there and tell her that they still need the okay from the OC to allow her because after her little bombshell about cheating, they don't necessarily know if the Olympic Committee is going to want her representing the Olympics. And she's a little taken aback about that, but it seems like Ben is on her side and Ben actually does want her to be at the Olympic Games in Paris. Meanwhile, in the control room, you've got Chip and Bradley going over the footage that Chip had recorded regarding the survivors of Wolf River. Bradley wants to see all of it, but then she tells Chip about how the FBI is going after Claire and it's not looking good. And initially, Chip is like, you can't give her up. That's our source. You got to protect her. We don't have to cooperate with them. Because Chip doesn't realize what Bradley is against in this situation. She doesn't have the luxury of not cooperating. She has to cooperate. So Bradley tries to kind of play both sides of the coin with this, but Chip, not knowing the full story, is adamant, no. You can't. You can't give up Claire. And then he leaves to go join the rest of his former staff at this party. It's there where he ends up running into Alex. And at first, they're very cordial because, as Chip puts it, well, yeah, we're cordial because now we have boundaries. And that's when Alex asks him for a favor. Alex knows that Chip is really close with Kabir, so she nicely asks him, hey, can you just get him off my ass for this story? But Chip says, no. No, actually, this is what I'm talking about. This is the boundary I've set. I'm not doing it because I don't want to. And Alex is offended by this. She's really upset. She can't believe that Chip just won't do her a solid, but he won't. And that's when actually he leaves the conversation, and because Ben's a genius, he decided, you know what, the staff needs karaoke machines. So he set up a karaoke machine, and Chip decides to take advantage of it by singing, you don't own me. And a lot of the staff join in. They're looking at Alex, they're looking at Ben. It's pretty clear that the song is directed right at the bosses. Bradley, though, never made it to the party because she got that call from Yanko to head over to his apartment, and when she got there, there's Claire. And she's shocked because she hasn't seen Claire since Claire fled her apartment. Claire explains that she needs to see that file. She needs to know what the FBI has against them. And after a little bit, Bradley decides to give it up. And Claire is like, I knew it. I knew that they were going to try to paint us as the problem, when in reality, we have documented evidence that they were the problem. We're not murderers here. We're not criminals. This sparks a big-time back and forth between the three, with Bradley trying to encourage Claire to go cut a deal with the FBI. Yanko, realizing the severity of the situation, realizing that Claire, who, by the way, is in this file, she's the one funding this group, he realizes that the FBI is going to throw her in jail for a long time. He encourages her to run. And Claire, she wants to go public with this story because she's not a criminal. She's being painted as that. The FBI is going against her. But she doesn't care because the right thing to do is free her and her colleagues' names. She tells them, no, Yanko's right. The FBI is not going to help me out. I have to run. So when Bradley leaves Yanko's apartment, she's under the assumption that Claire is leaving and never coming back. The next day, when Yanko shows up for work, Ariana is waiting for him. Ever since Claire came back into Yanko's life, Ariana hasn't really heard from Yanko, and considering Yanko was ready to propose, that's pretty weird. So she wanted to talk to him. And she essentially tells him, look, you need to figure your shit out. Like, if you want to do this, we need to do it. But if not, don't just string me along. So Yanko has a lot to think about. Meanwhile, upstairs, Alex had a morning meeting with Chris Hunter now that the deal is settled. Alex wanted to know what Chris had planned for her brand new show that she got included with this deal, but Chris says, no, I want to table that conversation. I want to talk about something else. She wants to find something that matters, and that's when Alex pitches her on interviewing Roya, the Iranian fencer who Alex is trying to get asylum for. It's a win-win for Alex. She gets a puff piece interview that will hopefully put some stress on politicians who, to this point, have been reluctant to put their backing behind Rhea because of the fact that it's election season coming up. And the story does, in fact, matter. And Alex does such a good job pitching that Chris says, all right, yeah, I'll interview her. And it works. When Chris does interview Rhea, it is a puff piece, but the girl's so likable that now you at least have senators willing to meet to talk about asylum. Now, Alex did get some bad news that day. Paul Marks is ring shopping, but she completely forgets about that when the Times piece does come out, and to her surprise, she's barely in it. That's because Bro must have said something to Kabir, because the article is essentially just an interview about Bro Hartman and his upbringing and how he got to this point. And it turns out, as Alex is reading it, guy had a pretty tough childhood growing up. After reading it, Alex actually calls him up to discuss it, but then she invites him over that night for a drink so that she could thank him properly. I think we can speed this up. They hook up. Yeah, because we all knew that was going to happen by episode 1 when he showed up and they didn't get along. Yeah. Now, after they hook up, Alex, you can tell, immediately has buyer's remorse. She's kind of grossed out by what she just did, and she kicks him out, and he gets the sense that she might be having buyer's remorse, but he just has a way about him where he jokes about it and he leaves. While those two were sort of starting a relationship, not too far away, Yanko was discussing his old relationship with Claire. Claire saw pictures in the apartment of Yanko and his soon-to-be fiancé, we think. He starts asking Yanko about it. They start discussing their relationship, but it's during this conversation that Yanko realizes he does actually want to be with Ariana. It might have something to do with the whole fact that the FBI is after Claire, the love of his life, but either way, Yanko tracks down Ariana, leaving a workout class, and proposes right on the street, and she accepts. So now they actually are engaged. The Claire situation, though, is coming to a head the next day. When Bradley shows up for the morning show, they've got this whole Pat Sajak thing ready. It seems like the show is set, but then Layla pulls Bradley into Yanko's dressing room and surprises her with the fact that Claire is going to be discussing her files that she has on this whole situation. And Bradley's like, no, you can't do that. But Claire once again says, I have to free my name. They're lying about us, and I don't care. I mean, I have to tell the truth. It's at this point where Bradley just pleads with her and says, look, if you do this, you will be arrested and I will be arrested. I lied for you to the FBI, but Claire doesn't care again. She never asked Bradley to do that, and she promises her, as soon as I'm done, I'm gone forever. You won't see me again. But Bradley can't take that chance. Not with the FBI breathing down her neck and threatening to throw her in front of a judge. She calls up the FBI, she tells them what's about to happen, and before Claire ever goes on camera, Claire is put in custody, and she's escorted out. And as she's leaving, of course, you have that dramatic scene where she faces the person who betrayed her, because there's Bradley in the hallway. Bradley's day, though, goes from bad to worse because she didn't just betray Claire, she betrayed Yanko as well. And while they have a break, Yanko tells her, I trusted you. Claire trusted you. You stabbed us in the back. I'll never work with you again. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.